Welcome to PHP in 15 days guaranteed training course day 3. Today we are going to study conditional statements, that is if, elseif, else and switch. These statements are really interesting and easy to understand with little attention. Also today we are going to develop our first ever application which will take care of different scenarios, like our application will work keeping the days in consideration and will greet you differently for different days of the week. I hope you are excited enough to start. So let's go. If, elseif, else. Very often we face the situation when we want our code perform different things on different inputs. For example, we define a variable and this variable can have any value of any data type. We want to show the output according to the data type. So if variable has the data type string, our code should echo it's a string. If the variable is containing integer, our code should echo it's an integer. Or let's assume our variable can have any value from 1 to 10 and we want to echo different messages for each number. So these are very basic examples where we might be in need of if, elseif and else statements. So these statements help us in making decisions on different scenarios. We check the condition with the help of these, and if the condition returns true, that particular statement executes. If checks the argument given and returns true or false. Only at the time when condition returns true we can perform something. Elseif. If we want to check another argument, we use elseif. Else is used to do something by default if none of the above conditions arguments return true for if and elseif. Elseif and else always follow if statement respectively. Let's first have a look at syntax of this conditional statement. First of all, write a keyword if and then parentheses, and between parentheses we put some argument. After parentheses we need to start curly braces, and within curly braces we can write some code. This code will only be executed if the argument will return true. So this is all for if condition. So just keep in mind that the argument or condition we write between parentheses just return true. Otherwise, if will not execute the code we write within curly braces. Now consider the if statement returns false and our code will obviously not run, but still we want to show something or we want to perform something otherwise. Here in this situation we can declare else. So else only takes the script which we want to execute. Else doesn't check the conditions. Every time the if statement doesn't execute, else will be. Write else keyword and then curly braces, and between these we write the code to execute. Now if the argument provided for if becomes false, first do something will not work. Instead, the execution area of else will be executed. So whenever argument of if is false, else will be executed. Let's give numbering to the execution of each section to make them more readable. Now we want to check another condition. As I told earlier, we can have several conditions to check. So now suppose we have another condition to check. Write the keyword elseif. Remember, when we write if or elseif, we need to start parentheses right after these keywords, and between parentheses we put the condition or conditions. After declaring the condition, same like before, we start the curly braces and enclose the code to be executed only when this else if statement would return true. Now what will happen here? First of all, if condition will be checked, and if it returns false, elseif will check the condition, and if this is true, 2 will be run, otherwise 3 will be run. That's pretty straightforward. This is all for the syntax. So now let's just try to understand this whole process in another way. So here within if statement we can get the result of any condition, either true or false. So we might have only true here or false. So let's just put true here, and within execution area let's write if condition will run and then else, and in this execution area this will not run. Let's go to the browser and see what happens. You can see if condition will run message here. It means if statement ran and else couldn't. So only one statement will run and the sequence will remain from if statement to else statement. Now let's make this if statement false and then obviously else will be executed. So let's change this to not run and let's make a change in else execution to instead this just write else and just remove this not from here. Let's get back to the browser and you can see else will run message. So now you know when if gets the false here within parentheses whether you write it directly or it's the result of condition if will not run, rather else will run. Now let's write elseif and this always stays between if and else. Let's provide it true and assume the condition we provided returned true. So here we want to echo else if statement will run. You can see above that if statement has false so it wouldn't run and else if statement now has true in here so it must run. Let's check this out. Refresh and we have some syntax error. Get back to the code and of course we missed a semicolon here. Let's go to the browser again, refresh and this time you can see we have the message of else if statement will run. Now let's make else if statement false as well. Now if and else if both are false, so in this case else should run. Let's check this out in browser and we get the message else will not run. But we have this message means else was run. Let's correct this to else will run. Go back again, refresh and else will run message. Let's remove not from if statement too. Now let's consider one last scenario that we can face is make both of these true. Put true here with if statement and true with else if statement as well. Now the script will give the priority to the statement that comes first. It means first come first served. So if statement always stays ahead of else if. That's why if statement will be executed. Let's check this out in browser. Rightly so, if condition will run message here. Also if we define several else if statements and if statement is false, the first else if statement will be run having resultant true within its parentheses.